Hey, it's time for another glass of OJ. So Microsoft Patch Tuesday released a vulnerability and a patch for their DHCP client. And essentially what this vulnerability allows is for remote code execution if you send interesting responses to the clients. So essentially, you can worm through a Windows environment by just using DHCP. This is pretty interesting. The other interesting fact about this is it does not apply to older versions of Windows than, I believe it is Windows 10 version 1803. I have a link in the description that gives a little more detail on that. Patches are released, so go patch your stuff, but it's only Windows 10 1803. I don't think it even applies to the to any servers. It doesn't apply to any apply to any stuff. You may be thinking, well, why in the world would it only apply to Windows 10? Apparently, Windows did a pretty good rewrite of their DHCP client, and of course, as we all know, when you majorly change code, there's a major ability to have some new bugs and new vulnerabilities. So that's what happened here. So essentially, patch your stuff. And you may be thinking also, okay, so how's this attack going to work? Because most companies obviously have firewalls. I mean, since the late 90s and early aughts, we've had firewalls in our environments. And so how's someone going to send a weird response from the internet? Well, that's a good point. So this attack, this type of vulnerability, would probably not be the first phase of a traditional attack to your on-premises stuff. So that's good. You still need a patch, especially patch your laptops, because your laptops go in a lot of places where you can't validate DHCP everywhere. So think of somebody listening into stuff on a cafe where the Wi-Fi doesn't segment or isolate traffic between hosts on the same VLAN or the same network. What if somebody's actively listening for DHCP requests and automatically then seeks out and gives these responses, and now they have arbitrary code execution, remote code execution on the device, and now it's part of the botnet. So that when they go back to their enterprise, you now have a worm. So there's a lot of ways this can become very nasty. There's a lot of ways in which some of the scope and the impact is limited just due to the nature it's only the client. But think about your environment. Think about where you actually have your DHCP servers. Think about where you have DHCP clients. Think about where those are on the network. Think about if you have any network intrusion detection systems. Think about if you're look for, if you have packet capture, if you have NetFlow. Check to see if you're seeing anything like that. Check to see if you're seeing, UDP 68 going places and coming from places and being responded to from places where you don't expect. Do you know where all your actual DHCP servers that should be responding are? And make sure that traffic is only coming from those places. It becomes a little more nasty because, again, DHCP first starts out with a client talking on the broadcast. We're not even talking layer 3 yet. How can it be layer 3? It doesn't have an IP address yet. So we're just talking layer 2 MAC address for that initial, hey, I need an IP address. Who on here is a DHCP server? Usually your switch then goes and says, hey, that's a DHCP request. I know a DHCP server. Hey, DHCP server, this guy needs some help here. What do you say? And then you get a response. So, you might have to think about hijacking in that case of those responses and seeing where that's coming from if someone's spoofing. But if someone's able to get into your environment already in those avenues, you've already got problems. You've already got problems you need to fix. So that's kind of what I'm seeing is the opinion of a lot of people too, is they're saying, you know what, don't worry necessarily about your internal network on this. Still patch. It's Windows 10. You should be doing your security updates anyway. You should go ahead and put this on there and patch it. It should be on there normal. Just make sure it happens. But essentially, it's not for that necessarily that we should be worried. We should definitely be worried about those laptops, those BYOD devices, those other things that go out. Oh, that's a good point. BYOD devices. So someone comes onto my network with a compromised host that's had that. So if you have BYOD in your network, tell your users, hey, run your updates please today. Run your updates please today, because they're going to get that patch and they're going to be secured against that. Because they go in a lot of networks that aren't their own, other companies, coffee shops, homes, a lot of places where it may be more hostile, hotels that may or may not be, having the proper network hygiene. So again, always check your threat models. Always check, hey, is this really a threat for me? Do I really have bigger fish to fry? But considering Microsoft puts this at a 9.8 on the CVE and CVSS scale, patch it. Just patch it. Patching can be hard, but patch it wherever you can find it. And be running checks and be running some compliance checks on that over the next few weeks to make sure everybody gets patched that you can. It's not the worst it's not the worst RCE that can exist, but it's very hard to track for. Again, because it's a layer 2 initial response or a layer 2 initial that the client would be saying, and then getting a response from that. I don't know also if the DHCP clients, if you send a response to it, but it didn't ask for anything, whether it would cause issues. The only way I'm seeing this happen is if the client actually has initiated a request and there's a response. We don't have proof of concept yet, though, so we don't quite yet know exactly what actually triggers these things. So be looking for proof of concept code, be looking for patching, be looking for those things. Put this on your Excel spreadsheet as something to watch. I'm sure someone on Twitter is going to find proof of concept code for this, probably within the week. And we'll be able to test this stuff live. And there may be a Metasploit bug or module. Don't know. But there might be proof of concept code for you to test in your environment as well. Anyway, check out that. If you disagree with something I've just said, if you have professional philosophical differences, if you think of something I haven't thought of, we're here for discussion, we're here for conversation. This is a glass of OJ. It's just one part of your breakfast you should be having. It's not certainly all. So feel free to leave comments. Message me on @0DDJ0BB. Fail along with me as well. And tell me what you think, and let's have a good discussion about this. Patch your stuff. This has been your glass of OJ, and it's about empty. Have a good one.